It's like a broken record. 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 It's like a broken record.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go, go.
Welcome back, Raider Nation and my champions. This is Eric, and we are back live this Monday evening to go over this game review, as I like to call it, the tank review of the 25-20 loss to the Indianapolis Colts. And I put it as a rock bottom for a reason. I think this is an all-time low here, at least for this season. I want to say hello to everybody coming on in. I see a lot of people here in TikTok land. How you doing tonight? Put a one in the chat if you are enjoying this. Not the Raider season, but you're enjoying the live stream thus far. I see Dominique in here. Some more people filing in on the YouTube side. And if you are new to the program, you are enjoying this, why not give it a thumbs up, follow, like, share, subscribe, do all that thing, whatever platform you're on. If you are new to this and you are not familiar with this program, of course, we go over what I call the rundown. That's right. We have our topics that we're going to talk about, and we are going to open the mics up tonight. The links will be in the description, either in TikTok in the notation description, or on YouTube. It is the pinned comment. You can click on that, go into the green room once we get to our question and answer segment, and join the program. You do not have to be on camera. Of course, you'll have to be on your mic. I want to hear what you have to say about this, but let's first get to what is the most important part of this channel, and that is you, my champions.
I hear everyone say it, take what they give you. We're going to take what we want.
And I see you in here as well, Sandy B. Thank you for coming on in as well. And this is our current champion count. Keeps growing, especially on the TikTok side. And I want to appreciate each and every one of you. I got about 30 people in here right now. Thank you for that. We're going to talk about this game. And of course, this channel would not be here without you guys watching the program. So once again, thank you very much. Let's get right to this tanking. Now, we always start on the defensive side for the Raiders, and I usually give 4 keys, and I wanted to give 4 poops because it looks like they were in full tank mode. And I got a little bit of information on that. We'll share a little bit later. But my first key to the game, or tank to the game, of it was, of course, Jonathan Taylor coming back. And the goal, if you wanted to tank, let him have 100-plus yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 10 rushing first downs. What actually happened, he got 147 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, 8 rushing first downs for the team, and of course that big 66-yard touchdown run, unbelievable. And for that, I got to give it enough. Not only did he break out with that big run, nobody was really around. The defensive scheme let it break loose. I know we've had some injuries. There's still no excuse for that. Honestly, between that and the next key we'll talk about, the defense was lost, and that'll be reflected in the final defensive grade, of course. Thanks for the footballs there, Sandy, over on TikTok. Thank you. So let's get to our second key, or our second poop of the game. That was this defensive line. Very quiet of late, and if they wanted to keep tanking, I wanted to see 0 sacks, 0 quarterback hits, and allow over 50% third down conversions. Now, of course, I'm not into tanking. I want to see usually about 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and keep that under that 50% third down conversion rate. This is what actually happened. We only got 1 sack and 1 quarterback hit. Of course, that was from Max Crosby. What else is new? We allowed a 55% third down conversion rate, 6 of 11. To me, that's unacceptable, especially with a guy like Matt Ryan. Erlinger did not start. Jeff Saturday pulled him back, put Matt Ryan back in. Of course, Matt Ryan was a turnover machine, and then he quote-unquote got hurt. They started the rookie for a couple weeks, and then they got rid of the offensive coordinator, head coach, and he got his job back basically. But he had basically all day in that pocket. Very clean, and we'll get to the final defensive grade, and it shouldn't be any surprise. It's going to be an F as well. Hey, Al's Ghost, I see you in here. Salute to you as well. And this is why it's an F. Not only these keys, but let's face it, the Indianapolis Colts were 29th in yardage as an offensive team coming into this game. We allowed 415 total yards to this team. And like I said during halftime report, Matt Ryan was absolutely clean in this game. Of course, he had the 1 sack, big whoop. That's nothing. He got to do whatever he wanted, picked apart the secondary. And to top it all off, I talked about the Jonathan Taylor big run. Of course, he's a stud. But what about Matt Ryan? He got a 39-yard run. This man is 36 years old. We're not talking about Lamar Jackson. We're not talking about Justin Fields here. We're talking about Matt Ryan. Slowpoke Matt Ryan gets a 39-yard run up the middle, basically. I know he's probably about the hash marks, actually, but still unacceptable. And again, you're back here. You got your hands open. I have to show you 2 weeks in a row because nothing's really changed. Nothing's really changed, and I'm going to explain why nothing's really changing, because some new news came out to light this afternoon, and I'll get to that in a little bit later after we get to our offensive side of the ball. Clown show continues. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, still a clown show. I'll explain that the grades are a little bit different, but I will explain that. First, I want to talk about the offensive line. It's the first key to the game. Worried about their pass rush. If they were going to totally tank, allow at least 4 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, and 1 turnover related to that. What actually happened was 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and a 38% third down conversion rate, which is actually 5 of 13. I'm going to give it a C-. I think they did better than what the actual stats showed. I think Carr held the ball a little bit too long, number one, and stayed in the pocket too long. He didn't shuffle out. He didn't run, and that caused a lot of problems with this offensive line. Not to say they did a great job, but I've seen much worse from this line, believe me, and so have you. Now, my second key to the game was, of course, Davante Adams here. I was looking, if you're going to tank it, less than 100 receiving yards, because he's basically the only main weapon we have now. No touchdowns and 1 interception due to lack of effort like he did a few weeks back. What he actually did was 126 receiving yards and a touchdown. I got to give this an A for Davante Adams. I mean, not only the stat line, but you could tell he was out there. He was grinding. He went and basically grunted that way to that first down that you saw in the second half. He was giving everything he got. We'll talk about the interview after the game. We'll talk about Derek Carr's interview as well. But overall, this offense, I'm going to give it a D. I'm not going to give it an F because they did come out. They did score 20 points. I would not call that a failure. Now, remember, keep this in mind. The Indianapolis Colts came into this game with the 5th-ranked defense as far as yardage goes. So there is something to be said about that. 304 total yards. Not very impressive. Again, I wasn't going to give it an F. I don't think it deserves an F, but it's definitely not a decent grade here. Let's see. And one more thing I want to mention about the offense that you could possibly give it an F was the penalties, the sloppy play. 10 penalties overall. Most of those were on the offensive side, 74 total yards. And it just shows, again, a lack of preparation, a lack of coaching here by this guy right here. But honestly, this seems to be with a purpose. Now, a lot of people have had some conspiracy theories about tanking. And there is some evidence about that. I'm going to show you that right now. This is the brain trust behind this, of course. And it's sickening. And I'm going to get, there's an article floating around. I'm going to show it to you right now. Let me pull it up for you. Honestly, this is sickening to me, to be honest. This is from Las Vegas Review Journal. Now, this one says, this came out today, basically saying that Mark Davis remains firmly in Josh McDaniels' corner. And I've read the whole article. Basically, here's Mark Davis talking about Josh McDaniels after the game. As far as Josh goes, I have no issues. I'm getting to know him a lot better. When you sign somebody to a contract, don't you expect him to fulfill the contract? I like Josh. I think he's doing a fantastic job. You have to look at where we came from, where we're going. Okay. Where's the fantastic job at? 2-7. The locker room's divided and crumbling. Like I put on my title, we have to look where we came from. We ended up 10-7 last year. That's where we came from. We came from a lot of dysfunction last year, and the guys pulling together. Now it looks like a bunch of guys don't give a shit, and that is echoed in the post-game pressers by Davante Adams and Derek Carr. Derek Carr basically crying out there because he's tired of this, to be honest with you. And we'll scroll this down. Talking about Gruden, I want to talk about that. He's been great. He has the same urgency as we all do. Now, this is McDaniels talking about the owner, Tommy Boy Davis. He's been great. Has the same urgency as we all do, if not more. He's been here a long time. He's seen this when it's been good, and he wants to win as bad or worse than anybody else. You know what? I want to see this. He's seen this when it's been good. What? When he was a child? When Al ran this organization? It hasn't been good when he's been here. That's a bunch of bullshit right there. Okay? And he feels the same frustration. I don't buy that for one fucking minute. He's here to make money. That's the bottom line. This team is out and outright tanking. When you give a stamp of approval to this guy, 2-7, this locker room is clearly divided. And if you watch the presser with Josh McDaniels talking, and they addressed, Davante Adams, Derek Carr saying there's a lot of people not giving full effort. He just deflected it. He didn't say, yeah, we got some problems. We're clearing it up. He didn't own anything. You know, this is all by design. And I'm telling you right now, and I said it last week, I'm going to keep tooting this. You know, Raider Nation, very loyal, maybe to a fault. Probably to a fault. Let's be honest here. I got to say it again. I'm not going to give this team another nickel until they show the Al Davis commitment to excellence that this friggin' franchise was actually kind of founded on. Now, I know they started a couple years before, and they were like this. They were like shit. And then Al Davis came in and turned this around and made this a proud organization. And now it's regressed back to that day, those pre-Al days. And I'm not going to give them one friggin' nickel of my money. Forget it. Now, as far as my prediction goes, my tanking prediction, 19-7. This was almost the score, almost near the end of 3 quarters. Now, like I said, I think Derek Carr, I think Davante Adams, Josh Jacobs had some pride there. Now, you could argue Josh Jacobs had pride because he's looking for that new contract next year because he's on his last year. You could say that, but there was a lot of pride in those 3 players, to be honest with you. Tried to make it close. This defense could not stop anything, to be honest with you, and it just got worse and worse. The offense looked like crap the first quarter or so, just like most every game, but they tried to come back, fell short, stupid penalties, undisciplined, and like I said, I think this is all by design. But I want to know what you guys have to say. I think I've talked enough about this nonsense. How are you guys doing tonight? And again, this is my Q&A question right here. Is it time to boycott the Raiders? And to me, it's a fervent yes. I don't think Raider Nation should give another nickel to a ticket, a hot dog, parking, new hats, new jerseys, nothing. This is not the Al Davis Raiders. This is not pride and poise. This is not commitment to excellence. When you're saying Josh McDaniels is doing, quote, a fantastic job, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Fantastic job at tanking? Is that what you're saying? Either you're fully admitting you're tanking or you're a bigger idiot than I thought you were. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, you tell me, pick which one. And I also put a voting poll like I normally do in YouTube. And I asked, what should the Raiders do next? I asked, well, should there be a full rebuild and draft a new quarterback? Should we start a rebuild and go get a free agent quarterback next year? A lot of people talk about Lamar. I'm against that. Running quarterbacks don't last that long. He's been taking a lot of hits. He's been getting injured. So I would not want to give him big money. Keep Derek Carr, rebuild the offensive line, or something else, and you put it in the comments. So I want to hear from you right now, and I'm going to be opening up, of course, like I normally do. Let's get this over here. We'll get this live right now. So if you want to come in, I got it right there. I have it in the pinned comment. The link's in the description. I see Israel already in here. I'm going to welcome him. If you want to come in, I can have more than one person, so come on in as well. It's also in TikTok if you want to do that. There's a link right there. I'm going to let you in. Hey Israel, how you doing tonight? What say you? Is it time to boycott the Raiders? Israel, you got your mic on. We can't hear you. I cannot hear you. I can't hear anything. Okay, be sure to mute the live stream on YouTube and turn your mic on when you come in here into the studio. Let's see. All right. Israel, you in chat? So basically, what you need to do is you need to mute the live stream that you're listening to on YouTube when you come in. When I get you on, and then turn your mic on. There's a microphone icon at the bottom of the page when you come in. Be sure it doesn't have a red line across it. Okay. Let's see. I'll go to the comments right now. You can try to get back in, Israel. Let's see. Dominic says Al is rolling over in his grave. Absolutely. I don't know what to say, and honestly, I think he's rolling over in his grave because the way his son is running the organization that he took so much pride in for decades, to have an organization a cut above the rest, a maverick. This guy is none of those things. He's none of those things. He's a roly-poly, little know-nothing football guy who won the lottery, basically, and, was born to the right person. I mean, otherwise, I don't know if this guy could run an Arby's, to be honest with you. So I'm telling the truth. And this does look like full tank mode. And with him giving a vote of confidence for Josh McDaniels, going 2-7, to me, Josh McDaniels has a lot to prove. Not just to the Raiders, but to the NFL. What he did in Denver, we talked about that before with Cutler, with Brandon Marshall. What he did with the Colts, leaving them at the altar, that nonsense. He has a lot to prove to this league, and he's not doing it. He looks like a moron. He does. I mean, they brought in Jeff Saturday this week. Guy's never been a head coach at this level. I guess he coached high school or something. And the offensive coordinator they have, 30-year-old kid, never called any plays in the NFL ever. And what happened? We got owned. We got owned by these guys, over 400 total yards. How is that possible? How does Patrick Graham still have a job? Why? Because they're tanking. That's why. They don't care about you. They don't care about us. They don't care about the nation. They care about your pocketbook. So if you're happy with the nonsense going on, if you're happy with 2-7, keep going. Keep going. Keep spending your money. Keep paying $20 for a hot dog, $100 for parking, $400 or $500 for seats. Keep doing that. They want you to do that. They're playing us all for fools. But if you're like me, if you're Al Davis, just win, baby. You do whatever you have to do to win. You play as hard as you can. You don't tank and all this other nonsense. Then you don't give another nickel to this organization. All right, you're going to try again? Okay. Come on in. If anybody else wants to come on in the meantime, that is fine as well. Again, if you haven't watched the post-game press conferences of both Derek Carr, I would avoid Josh McDaniels. It's the basic same nonsense. Basically not taking any responsibility. What I put in the beginning in the intro, if you weren't here at the very beginning, I do a little intro. That was his voice in the press conference when he started it. It's like a broken record. And I just repeated it because even he knows it's a broken record. He's telling you it's the same crap because they're tanking. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about winning. He has no pride. There's no pride in poise. He's trash. Go back to New England. I would rather give somebody who wants to bust their hump, do everything they can, even if they don't win, They gave it everything they can. I can't respect this. I can't respect this. I just can't, guys. I can't. And again, Patrick Graham getting owned by a rookie. Never played it. Never called the game before up there. I mean, it looked like he still had zits on his face. Like he came from high school. If you watch the game, I was like, holy crap, who is this little kid? This little kid's. I mean, they could have got the dang the dog or whatever that picks Super Bowl winners or whatever every year, or the baby or whatever. You flip a coin. He probably could have beat Patrick Graham's defense. Are you kidding me? It's a joke. Sandy B says, I agree with you. Of course. It's logical. Boycott this team. Don't give them another nickel. Because if you don't, you're validating the way they're treating us. The more you buy, the more you go, the more they know they can get away with this crap, and the more they're going to do it. Screw them. Israel said, sorry, I couldn't hear you when I tried the second time. I muted the live stream and was unsuccessful. Well, hang on. I am on. I couldn't hear you at all. Were you trying to talk? Because none of us heard anything on that. So you can try again, and I can try to walk you through it. So if you want to do that, so let me hang on 1 second. All right. So this is the screen, right? This is the basic screen. When you come in, it should kind of look like this. Now, this is audio, and this is video. If you want to come on, put your camera on. I have mine off because I can't do both the OBS, what I'm doing now, and do this at the same time. It doesn't work that way. So I just keep this off, but you should be able to hear me. That's why you see it reverberating in here. So when you're in here, I have to keep my screen open. Like if I turn my screen off like this, you won't be able to hear me. So I have to keep my screen on, and you should be able to hear this when you do that. So get back to that. So like I said, if you think it's time to boycott the Raiders, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't, put a 2 in the chat. But I also want to know why. I want to hear your logic and your reasoning. Even if you don't want to come, I got to point the wrong way. Even if you don't want to come on and be live, I want to hear your reasoning in chat. Go ahead and put it in chat, whether it's TikTok or YouTube. Let's see. Sandy says, actually, a lot of colleges play better than the Raiders for real. Well, I think they're, like I said, this is confirmation they're doing this for real. I mean, to me, this says this is planned. I think they tried. You know what? I'm not even going to say that. Some people say that I think they tried. I'm not so sure about that because there were big holes coming in from the off season. We talked about those. We talked about right tackle. We talked about defensive tackle. We talked about cornerback. If you look at my videos, those 3 and a few others were addressed. And we talked about wide receiver before we got Devontae. So that was months ago. And those were never really clearly established. In fact, we got rid of Trayvon Mullen. We got rid of Alex Leatherwood. I'm not saying they should have been here, but they were here before, and you get rid of them. Who did you replace them with? Nobody. You didn't replace them with anybody. My camera is going hazy. My camera is so pissed off it doesn't even want to do live streams anymore with this nonsense. Let's see. Alsgoes says, this season is beyond frustrating. Well, it is and it isn't. I honestly, hang on. All right. My mic is on, but I can't hear you in the restream. We can't hear you either. Hang on. There we go. Try now. All right. You should be in. See, let me, Israel. That's crazy. Did you guys hear that? That was kind of crazy. I can hear you, but it sounds funky. Let me close this and reopen it. So give me a minute. I'm gonna close this and reopen it. Okay. So I'm going to pop you out here. That is weird. We're having some issues with this. So I'm going to close this and reopen it. Give me 1 second, all right? Give me 1 second. I'm going to close this and reopen it. Maybe it's been kind of hit. Honestly, this website's been kind of hit and miss. I'm going to have to be honest with you. I don't think this is a so let's see. I don't think that this is a YouTube thing. I think this is a studio thing. I know Al's Ghost has had issues from time to time. I've never heard it act that weird. Yeah, I heard him like a chipmunk. I haven't heard that before. I've heard it cut out before, like when Al's Ghost was on sometimes, but I didn't hear that before. So why don't you try to come back on one more time, Israel? I know you got a lot to say, and I want to hear what you got to say. That's why I want to get this right. So, yes, we did talk about all the holes. Rebuild again is the answer, right? No, it's not the answer. I mean, this was a 10-7 team, right? Let's be honest. This is a 10-7 team. They played hard, and it looked like they had more talent on paper, at least, coming into this season, especially after the Ruggs incident and all that. Arnett being an idiot and all that. It looked like they had more talent. They did have holes, but this wasn't a 2-7 team. This is not a 2-7 team. No way, no shape, no how. No way, no shape, no how. Not with Josh Jacobs winning like offensive player of the week for 2 weeks or something, and you got arguably the best wide receiver in the league. And Derek Carr, say what you will about him, he's at least an average quarterback, if not above average. I think he hovers around that top 10. Just with that's not 2-7. I mean, look at Houston. Davis Mills, Brandon Cooks wanted to leave. He doesn't want to play there anymore. They thought they were going to get rid of him at the trading deadline. Didn't happen. Now, when you come into the studio here, you have to stay. You're in like a green room. So until I open it up, until you're on here, and you see your face here as well, or your picture at least, we won't hear you. But when we had you on, it was kind of wild there. So let's see. That sounded like the ghost of Al Davis. I'm channeling Al Davis. He wants me to take over the team and whip some asses. That's what he wants. We talked about that last time. Try StreamYard. Yeah, I probably will get StreamYard. That'll probably be part of the facelift, the redo. I talked about that. Actually, I'm kind of in the process of changing some things with my life. I'll just say that right now. And that'll probably happen around the first of the year. And I'm going to start a second channel. I will let you guys know about that so you can go over there. I'll explain why when I do it. But that's going to be part of it. Once I do that the right way, so to speak, and YouTube likes me, I think things will be a lot better. And I can pursue other avenues. So, let's see. Sorry, champ. Stream's not working for me on my end. I'll try again in the future. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sorry you couldn't get on here. We did hear you the second time, but it was kind of choppy and funky. I don't know if you heard me. This is why I keep it open. You can see I'm talking right now in the studio as well. So if anybody comes on, they can hear me talk. If I turn this off like this and I quote unquote leave the room, then the people in there can't hear me. So that's why I put that in there. So that's okay. Don't worry about it. Like I said, put a 1 in the chat if you think it's time to boycott the Raiders. I didn't get any answers for that, so I'm going to ask again. Put a 1 in the chat if you think this is time to boycott the Raiders. Given what I've told you, what I've shown you with that article, is it time to boycott the Raiders right now? 2, if not, put a 2, and I want to know why. Tell me your reasoning why, because I give it 1s across the board. There's no way anybody in Raider Nation should be giving another nickel to this franchise as of right now. They don't deserve it. There is no commitment to excellence. At best, this is commitment to tanking. It could be commitment to idiocracy, to be honest with you, with Mark Davis running the show, because frankly, I haven't seen anything from this guy to show me anything. Let's be honest. Let's be honest here. So, so let's see. Sandy says once across the board. Al says no. He does not want to boycott the Raiders. He wants to still give them money. I want to know why. So type it into chat or come into studio. Hopefully you'll have better luck than Israel if you want to come in. Or you can just type it into chat. We'll talk about it as well. Sal Cardenas in TikTok says 1. Thank you for the likes as well, man. Absolutely. You don't have to agree with me. I give my case. If you agree with me, fine. If you don't, explain why you don't agree with me. That's all I'm asking. So this isn't a talking head committee. If I'm way off on this, you let me know. But I'm an old school Al Davis franchise type of fan. That's the Raider team I enjoy. I fell in love with. That's the team I wanted to be a fan of. Not this nonsense. Not all the crap going on now. I'm going to give Al a pass in the later years because, frankly, he was older. I think he might have had some issues, mentally speaking. Father Time's undefeated, Some of the moves, Darius Haywood Bay comes to mind, to be honest with you. I'll give him a pass because of that, but this guy's too busy at Hooters. He's too busy at Hooters, enjoying his wings and counting his money. That's what I see, and that's what he keeps proving. He's saying that Josh McDaniels is doing a fantastic job. Not a good job. He's doing a good job. No, a fantastic job. That's an A+. 2-7's an A+. That's commitment to excellence now. The bar, I can't even show my hand. It's so low. The bar is so low, it's down in the middle of the earth. That's how low the bar is now. Real Raiders don't boycott. I'll say this. Real Raiders don't put up with bullshit. Okay? Real Raider fans don't put up with nonsense. Real Raider fans keep the standards that Al Davis set for this team. Okay? That's exactly my idea of a boycott is you don't give another nickel to this franchise until it shows the commitment to excellence that Al founded. You don't go to the games. You don't buy any more jerseys. You don't buy any more hats. No, because you're feeding the beast. You're proving to them. They're saying you're stupid. That's what they're saying right now. You're stupid. We can do whatever we want. We can give you a substandard product and you will still come and give us your money. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing right now. What if you go to McDonald's and they put a dog turd in the Big Mac? You going to eat it? But I'm a fan of McDonald's. I'm going to still eat that dog turd. Why? No. Don't buy another Big Mac till it's done right. This is the same thing. This is a business. He has no love for the game. This is not Al Davis. This is businessman Mark Davis. And he is making a ton of money on Raider Nation. And he does not care about you. He doesn't care about you. None of them care about you. I see Al's ghost here, and he put a 2 on here. I'm going to welcome him in. I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Al's ghost. Give me some insight on why you put a 2 here.
Hey, Raider champion. How you doing, first of all?
Good. How you doing? I hear you loud and clear, so that's good. That's positive. So give me your take on this, man.
So I put a 2 in the chat because, frankly, boycotting the team, I don't think it'll have much of an effect. And this is why. Mark Davis, if you go back and analyze the moves that he's made over the past several years in recent history, they've been primarily motivated by one thing, and that's making money. That's why he ended up moving the franchise over to Las Vegas, where he got the state of Nevada and the city of Las Vegas to fund his palace, which we now know as Allegiant Stadium. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't care whether that stadium's filled with Raider fans or it's filled with away fans, as long as it's filled and it's packed. So we could go ahead and boycott the team, but I don't think it'll go and have the desired effect. Just a few weeks ago, when was it, week 3 or week 4 when we played the Broncos, I saw more orange than black in the stadium. And it was mind-boggling. I mean, that was very, very early on in the season, and it was clear that away fans had taken over Allegiant. So we could go ahead and boycott and not buy the tickets or the jerseys, et cetera, but I don't think it'll have much of an effect. Not just that, but you know, the Raider gear is always in high demand. People love that silver and black and the Raider shield and the logo, and if anything, people will wear it for stylish reasons. Go ahead.
Well, I partially agree with you with that as far as some of the ticket sales, but I don't see like a full stadium of Denver Bronco fans in there. It will be affected. Not only that, the merchandise sales go down. Say theoretically Raider Nation wakes up, realizes what's going on, quits and does the boycott like I suggest, they will see a difference. It will be a significant difference. Will the team still make money? Of course it will. The NFL has huge contracts, but it will go down. It will be noticed. I mean, other businesses, this has happened with boycotts. Think of, I remember back in the 90s or the 80s with the Coke, and they tried to come out with this, they called it New Coke, and everybody hated it. Everybody hated it, complained, and they went, oh crap, we screwed up. Now we'll bring back Coke Classic. We'll have the New Coke, but we'll have Coke Classic here too for you guys.
Right.
So businesses listen. Businesses will listen if there's enough people to raise a stink.
No, so I understand what you're saying, champion, but at the end of the day, what is it that Raider fans can practically boycott? I guess attending the games, which I think is a real, I think that could have a real blow to the team if Raider fans simply say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to attend the games. But let's be real. What do fans end up doing invariably? They end up selling their tickets to away fans. So either way, people are getting their money, and especially season ticket holders, they already bought their tickets. I mean, I used to be a season ticket holder in Oakland, so that's already set revenue for them. Whether or not the seats are packed, the tickets have already been purchased. Moreover, the apparel, I mean, the Raiders sure sell a lot of, you know, nice jerseys and, you know, jackets and hoodies, etc. But that, I doubt, I mean, we would have to look at the books, but I doubt that's the primary source of revenue for the team. The primary source of revenue for the team are these TV contracts and the stadium sponsors, and I don't think those are going anywhere. Those aren't going to be boycotted. So that's why I think, you know, yeah, I mean, we could try to raise a stink and clamor for something better. But maybe this is like a very defeatist type of position, but I just think that fans are very, very powerless in these types of situations. And particularly Raider fans, when frankly, we've become accustomed to mediocrity or sub-mediocrity over the past several decades.
Well, that kind of proves my point, because we as a fan base have put up with this nonsense for so long. You know,
it's a tough situation. There's no easy answer. I think as a fan, I mean, I'm not investing in the team. I'm no longer a season ticket holder. When they left Oakland, I didn't follow the team to Vegas. But as a fan, I'm not really sure what one can do, right? I mean, these aren't elected officials, so it's not like we could vote them out of office. I suppose we could go to Intermountain Healthcare Center and, you know, pick it outside the fence there and tell Mark Davis how we really feel. But even that kind of demonstration, I think, is pretty limited. So I think fans, unfortunately, we don't really have much of a say as to how these billionaire owners operate. And at the end of the day, Mark Davis is very satisfied because Allegiant is packed, and whether or not it's blacked out, I don't think he really cares. And I think that was actually a primary reason for him to move from the Bay Area over to Vegas, because he knew he would have a steady stream of revenue once he moved the franchise.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this has to be answered to each individual fan. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. People can do what they want. It will make an effect. Will it make such an effect? Maybe not. But to me, this is why I was a Raider fan. I mean, when I became a Raider fan, there were 28 teams in the league, and there were 27 other teams in the league that were pretty much the same, and then there were the Raiders. They were different colors. They played differently. They had an owner that was a maverick, didn't care what the league said, constantly arguing with them, fighting with them. This was a special franchise, and that died with Al Davis. It's gone. All we have left are the colors and the logo and the sayings that they splatter all over. And they put the torch up. Are they really honoring his memory by doing this? Saying he's doing a fantastic job tanking seasons? Is that something Al would approve of? And if not, I mean, it gets to an individual level. How much are we willing to put up with? You know? How much are we willing to put up with this team? Every year, like I said, it's Lucy the football. The Peanuts, they put the football out for us to kick it, and we run up there like idiots, doop, 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 and they take it away, and we fall on our butts. It's like every year they pull this crap because it works. It's like, when are we going to wake up and say enough, change the colors, change the team name, take the commitment to excellence off because you don't deserve it. Frankly, they don't deserve it. I could see if they didn't have, if the previous regime ran it in the ground and they were starting from scratch, like Gruden didn't get emails and they ended up like 2-15 or whatever, and we went a different direction or whatever, and they had to start from scratch and they're trying, and it's going to take a couple years, and maybe we'll get 5 or 6 wins this year, okay. But that's not the case. We were in the playoffs. The team rallied around Rich Bisaccia. And this team has holes, but I feel it has more talent on it this year than it did last season. And we're getting maybe half the effort. So how can somebody say that? When you say that's a fantastic job, you're telling me you don't give a care about winning. You don't care. You don't care about winning. You don't care about anything about except making money. And I can't stand behind that. That's not what Al Davis was completely opposed to that. Of course, he wanted a new stadium. He wanted to get down here to LA. I get that. But he always wanted to win. That's gone. It's all gone. So
I agree with you, champion. I think Al Davis always wanted to win, but I think especially towards, and I'm actually on the younger side of Raider fans. I'm in my early 30s, so I defer to you for more of the historical context of the Raiders. But I think that and my moniker is Al's Ghost, and I have a lot of respect for him as a GM, coach, commissioner of the AFL, et cetera. But I think a lot of the decisions that Al made, especially towards the end of his life, really set this franchise back. Mm-hmm. He was hesitant to let go of the reins of the organization. Based on my reading of the history of the Raiders, and especially Al Davis towards the last decade of his life. And I mean this with all due respect. I mean, the man was going like borderline senile. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the decisions that he made during that time did not set up the Raiders for success after his passing. And I think we have to, as fans, take a sober look at the decisions that Al Davis made, especially those decisions towards the end of his life, because they really, really set this franchise back. I mean, drafting Darius Hayward-Bay, drafting Jamarcus Russell, always going for the fastest guy in the draft instead of going for the most talented or the best fit in the draft. Mm-hmm. And that's on Al Davis. So Al Davis is not, in my view, immune from the blame. I think in a lot of respects, he was part of the problem.
I think he was at the end. I touched upon that earlier. I give him a pass near the end because I do think he was having mental issues. And it was kind of obvious. But to your point, though, yeah. I mean, but then again, that was what, over a decade ago? I mean,
yeah, it was like 11 years ago. But I mean, these decisions, though, they have lasting impact on the organization. I mean, reading about the Jamarcus Russell situation, Matt Millen, who at the time I believe was with the Lions, literally called Al Davis and told him, "Hey, do not draft Jamarcus Russell. I just had a meeting with him and he fell asleep in the middle of the meeting. He is not the guy. And Al Davis went against that. I mean, Matt Millen literally played for him and he did not listen. And we got stuck with the guy who would not watch film, who would fall asleep in the meeting rooms, who was literally, a headache for the coaching staff and the front office staff. And that set us back. And we could have had Calvin Johnson, by the way. The scouts were clamoring for Calvin Johnson, and Al Davis went against that.
Yep. And Detroit got him, which is
Detroit ended up getting him. And so this organization, one broader point, I think I've mentioned this on your lives before, Champion. The problems with this organization are deeper than Derek Carr. I'll lay my cards out there. I'm a Derek Carr supporter, as you know, Champion. I usually come on these lives and defend him. That being said, I'll be the first to also point the finger at Derek and say that he deserves some of this blame. But I take issue with folks who say that he deserves all of the blame. And I especially take issue with folks who think that we're one quarterback away from being a winning organization. That couldn't be further from the truth. We lack consistency. We lack a winning culture. Our commitment to excellence, as you mentioned, it's just a pretty slogan at this point. We don't have that in that building. And we didn't have that in Alameda, and we don't have that now in, I think, Henderson, Nevada, where the headquarters are at. And so we could relocate all over the country. We could probably go to a foreign nation and establish a headquarters there. It doesn't matter. This bad culture is going to follow us everywhere. So the first order of business is actually rectifying the culture, setting a high standard, and literally letting go of people in that building who don't meet that standard. And all of that is on Mark Davis. He had something special last season. He let go of Bisaccia, and now he made a bed that he has to lay in.
Yeah, and I was on record. I didn't want Bisaccia back as head coach, but I still think we should have kept him around, special teams guy. And we got the guy from Denver because he was McDaniel's buddy, and he sucks. He was terrible there, and I'm not seeing much. I mean, if it's not for Cole kicking 60-yard punts, I'm not really seeing it out of this guy either. So, to your point, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It's the soul of the organization. It's gone, and Mark Davis is not showing anybody that he cares about winning, that he wants to honor the family name. I used to work for a major beer company. I'm not going to say the name, and that was a family-owned business for a couple hundred years, about 150 years. They eventually sold it, but the big thing was that their name was on the product, even in generations after generations. So they had pride in it. They had a family pride name, and I don't see that with Mark Davis. I don't. It's okay. How much money? How much money? How much money? Doesn't care.
That's all he cares about.
So
that's all he cares about. I'm going to ask you a rhetorical question, Champion. Are you still there? Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
So usually when people do a bad job, in my experience, I'm in corporate America. I work for a big tech company. I won't say the name. But typically the way people get fired is, and I think this is true for most businesses, they get placed on a performance review plan, and you maybe get 30 days or 60 days, maybe 90 days to improve based upon that plan. And then if you don't meet your expectations on that plan, people get fired. And now you have a situation, analogizing this to the McDaniel situation. If you go back and you check his last 31 games as a head coach, he's lost 24 of them. Let that sink in. 24 of his last 31 games, the man has lost. and he's still employed. And Mark Davis came out, as you said at the beginning of the live, he came out and he voiced his full support behind McDaniels, and he assured us that he'll be back next season. How is it that this man is still employed despite his incompetence?
This reminds me a lot of a situation a couple of years ago with the Browns. Hugh Jackson, former Raider coach, right? He ended up going 0-16. And immediately after that game, Jimmy Haslam, their owner, came in and said, Hugh Jackson will be here for the next season. Just out of the blue. It's like, didn't talk. It's like, you didn't talk to the GM. Guy's 0-16. You're just going to keep him. I knew then it's like that franchise is screwed. It's done. It's a joke. And we're there. We're there now. It's but it's the same kind of situation. We're 2-7. You're fantastic job. What's so fantastic about it? So you like losing. You like spitting in the face of your father's franchise, or literally, spit in his figurative face. You think your father would put up with that with 2-7, and say you would think Josh McDaniels, if Al Davis was here, and of course in mental faculties given back in the day, you think he would say Josh McDaniels is doing a fantastic job going 2-7? Absolutely not. So. You don't care. You don't care about this franchise. You don't care about the lineage of this franchise. You don't care if they win or not. This is not the Raiders that I was a fan of, and it's sad. It's sad to see. I mean, like you said, you're in your 30s. You haven't really seen them win. I mean, last time they won, I was with my dad. I was 12, 13 years old, watching the game with my dad, watching the Super Bowl, and they just absolutely dominated Washington. They had an interception for a touchdown. They had a punt block for a touchdown. Washington couldn't get anything going to Art Monk until the third quarter, I believe, and they finally got a touchdown on the board, and they got the extra point blocked. It was just, dude. They didn't stop. They didn't do anything. And that was before Marcus Allen had that big run. It's like, it was just total domination. It just showed. It was, that's like the peak of this. And then we kind of started going down, and, they tried a few things. I'm not saying Al Davis is the greatest of all time. He's going to win every time, but there was some respect to this team. When you played the Raiders, you knew you were in for a full 60-minute game. It was going to be a dogfight. Even if you won, you're going to have some nice bumps and bruises. You're going to have to soak in the tub for a while. They had respect. This team has no respect. Jeff Saturday comes in, put in Pee Wee Herman as coach. Denver, fire Nathaniel Hackett, put in Pee Wee Herman. They'll probably win. I mean, it's a joke. There's no respect here. Like I said, the team that I rooted for is a million miles away right now. It's a shell of its former self. It would be an understatement. So, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree, champion. In my lifetime, of course, I haven't seen the Raiders win a Super Bowl. I think I was in 6th grade the last time they won a playoff game. So. It's a sad situation for a lot of Raider fans, especially those who are younger. And what worries me is with each passing year, those Raider fans who knew those great teams in the 60s and 70s and the 80s, Father Time calls them home, and all of a sudden you have a whole generation of younger fans who don't even hear the stories of the winning ways, and all they hear about is how bad the Raiders are and how the record's as bad as the Browns and the Lions in recent memory. And that's very, very sad. And actually turning my attention to this season, I think you titled the live as rock bottom. I actually don't think that this is rock bottom. I think it actually gets worse, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think things are going to get even uglier. We have 8 weeks to go in the season. I maybe see two remaining wins on the schedule, but I think it's going to get even uglier. And I think there's going to be a lot of fallout after this season, and I think the roster is going to be turned over. I don't think Derek Carr is back after this year. He's the scapegoat because every failing organization, every crumbling empire needs to, have that scapegoat, and Derek Carr is going to be that. And I think that was the emotion that he was expressing at the podium last night. He knew that this was his last shot, and I think he really loves the organization, but he knows that he's being set up for failure, and he's getting fed to the lions. So I think it gets worse before it gets better, and I think all of the DC haters who want him out are probably going to be begging for him come, October, November next season when we can't even advance the ball and get a first down.
Yeah, when I said rock bottom, I'm not talking just wins and losses. I'm talking about not only are we looking. Well, I called the season over after New Orleans. That was obvious, getting shut out and being embarrassed. But I'm talking about when Derek Carr came out there, basically crying out there, saying he's pissed off. People aren't giving full effort out there. Devontae Adams saying it's bullshit. If you watch, that's what he said in his post-game presser, and echoing the same thing. Not everybody's giving out 100% effort. And then you got Josh McDaniels. They address him about it. The reporters do, and he's like, "Well, they have their finger. Those leaders have the finger on the pulse of this team. Well, what about you? Why don't you have your finger on this pulse? It's." And I know some people are saying that's why Abram got booted. They're talking maybe that's how Cleve Farrell got demoted, but I don't think so. Maybe there's some of that, but it all goes back to him and the way this team plays. It doesn't play for 4 quarters. The only game we really played, I think, well was the KC game, and I see you in here, Hefe. Even though we lost by a point, we played very well against a very good team, a seasoned team, a team with a superior organization, great coaching, something we don't have either one of. And that does translate. And they have a one-of-a-kind talent at quarterback. Now, you said the quarterback isn't a solution. I think if we had Patrick Mahomes, we could probably at least get in the playoffs. I'm not saying we could win Super Bowls. I don't think this defense is there. But I think we would be better. I'm not going to pin everything on Derek Carr, though. I think like I said, I think he's around a top 10 quarterback. He's above average. He's not a Patrick Mahomes. He's never going to be. He's not a Peyton Manning. He's not going to be an Aaron Rodgers. It's just not that. But you don't necessarily need that. And everybody's known at least for 2 years. I would venture even back when we couldn't rely on Trent Brown. When he was in there, he played well, but we only get about half a season out of him because he was undisciplined. But when he wasn't there, that offensive line looked like garbage, and that position has not been fixed in years, and it wasn't fixed. And these guys, I thought they were going to do something either in free agency or the draft. They didn't really do that. They got it. They got a guy late there, Munford, which I think they got to groom as a swing guy, 7th round guy. Probably should have went maybe 5th round. They're saying so. Good deal, but a couple offensive linemen, a couple running backs, which in hindsight now they're not even really using. Britton Brown's not being used. Zamir White. I don't know what's wrong with that guy. I really had high hopes on him. I was hoping we'd get Dameon Pierce, and I talked about that. And people are gonna say, "Well, you're just saying that now because go back to my videos, go back to my draft videos, and see what I said about Dameon Pierce." Okay, but that guy, I could see that guy could run, and he was very hard to stop. Zamir White, I gotta say it. Doesn't look like he has any kind of vision in there, especially between the tackles. He just kind of runs and goes the straight line, which is okay for like 3rd and 1. I remember it was like a 4th and 1, 4th and 2. They always swing him outside. I don't get that at all. He should be between the tackles. Didn't make any sense, but that you're just diving in, and he took on, I think, a corner or a safety head on and won it and won the battle. That's the kind of player he is. But as far as like replacing Josh Jacobs, I don't see it happening because he doesn't have that vision. Josh Jacobs not only has the vision, but he also has that lateral movement that is very good. I don't know, which again goes back to this draft. It's like, and you didn't really use him anyway, and and then you got rid of Kenyon Drake, who I don't think can run between the tackles, but he can catch out the backfield. He can do a decent job blocking for you. You can keep the defense off balance. It's a lot of head scratching. So go ahead.
Yeah, a couple comments on that, champion. I have lukewarm hopes for Ziegler to be a competent GM. I think he could probably be a pretty good GM, but just judging him based on the moves he made in the offseason and what he did in the draft, I think we should proceed very, very cautiously. Something that I've been saying in some other Raider content creator live streams is the following. Don't get it twisted. Ziegler wanted to trade Josh Jacobs. Like that's why he was playing him so much in the preseason. That's how he was showcasing him for a trade. And I think there were no takers, and they were pleasantly surprised that he ended up performing as well as he did in this year. But I think Zamir White was going to be the guy, and we actually lucked out that Josh Jacobs, made the roster number 1, and then number 2 ended up performing as well as he did. The other thing, Ziegler paying a boatload of money to Chandler Jones for half a sack through 9 games. I've been hearing over and over again how great he is at setting the edge and, preventing, running backs from bouncing to the outside on his side. But when you pay, $50-some million over 3 years, you want more than setting the edge. Like, I'm sorry, you need to go and affect the quarterback. You need to put the passer on the ground. And he hasn't done that. And that's another move that Ziegler made. And then the other ones that you called out, cutting Kenyon Drake, even cutting Alex Leatherwood, a second-year player, move him to the inside. Like, they never tried him on the inside. They always just, it seems like they were hardwired to keep him at right tackle, but he actually performed much better as a guard. And you already have a lot of money locked up in the guy, so might as well, try him at different positions along the line, and they refuse to do that.
Especially with Denzel retiring.
Exactly, especially with Denzel Good retiring. No, for sure, yeah. So there's a lot of moves that Ziegler has made that I just step back and really question. Or just like the fact that he ended up keeping like 6 running backs on the roster. Like, who does that? It's just mind-boggling to me, but it is what it is.
And then they hardly ran the ball until Josh Jacobs caught fire, and they're basically just using him. So why do we keep 6 then? I thought it was going to be about a 70-30, 60-40 split with Zeus, and getting him acclimated and getting him as the heir apparent to replace Josh. I think they were trying to ship Josh Jacobs before the draft and during the draft for picks. I think that was probably happening. I would agree with you. They were definitely going to try to move him before the season. I think they did pin a lot of their hopes on Zamir White. Remember, they did move up ahead of the Chargers. I think the Chargers wanted to get him. They ended up grabbing Isaiah Spiller instead, similar type running back, but to spell Austin Eckler. So, I'm not proven. Remember, we didn't have first or second round draft pick this year either. So I want to see how these guys do with what they got. I also
wanted to keep Alec Ingold instead of this Jacob Johnson guy. I thought Alec Ingold was a very, very good fullback and a young player, homegrown player. Exactly. Who was good on the team. He performed well. I know he was a little banged up at the end of last year, but you keep those culture guys around because they're so important. You know, there's talent, but then there's also like these culture guys, these glue guys who keep the locker room together, and we don't have enough of those guys. I think there's Crosby maybe on defense, but that's even pretty much it. I mean, on offense, I would put Derek Carr on there, Devontae Adams, but outside of those key players, I don't really see anyone else stepping up and trying to make a difference. Maybe AJ Cole and Carlson and the whole special teams unit. I think they've been really solid, and I think those guys are the right kind of guys to have on the team. But they ended up turning over this roster pretty heavily in this offseason. And I think they're going to gut it even more. So that's why I think it's going to get even worse once they gut it next year and they fill it with a bunch of rookies. And I think we're probably looking at another like 4 or 5 win season next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, champion, the excuse there is going to be, and this is the way they keep us coming back to the bad restaurant. Well, we have a bunch of rookies and they're learning. Come back next year. Mm-hmm. And then you know, we're the gullible customers who believe that the menu is going to change next year, and the food's going to be really good all of a sudden. And then we come back and we sit down at the table only to get food poisoning yet again.
Yeah. Run into the bathroom. That's what Raider Nation has to do. We have to run to the bathroom every season. And then we have to hear the crap from people like Hefe all the time. So
yeah, and I think what's really, really bad, champion, what's really, really bad is we're not in an easy division. We're in a tough division. I mean, say what you want about the Broncos, but they do have Russell Wilson. It seems like they are turning somewhat of a corner. I think that team's only going to get a little bit better as the season progresses and going into next year. Obviously, the Chargers are pretty loaded on both offense and defense, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs. So I think our prospects for, you know, battling for a playoff spot out of our division, I think they're really, really bleak. And it seems like the pecking order in the AFC West is set for the next decade. It's Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, and it pains me to say that, but I also got to go into these seasons being as realistic as possible.
I would disagree with you. The Broncos. I was very vocal in criticism in the offseason with the whole Russell Wilson trade, 3 draft picks. Made no sense to me, especially that last season with Seattle. He didn't look very good. Some people say, well, he was banged up. The accuracy numbers I looked at, they were all kind of went down, and you can kind of see it. It's the same thing with Denver, playing kind of similarly, to be honest with you. Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy aren't DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. I'm not going to say that, but they're not that far away. And then you got Nathaniel Hackett. Not real impressed with him, to be honest with you. They probably should have kept Vic Fangio on the defensive side. Got rid of Bradley Chubb, who frankly was not the heir apparent to Von Miller. I know they drafted him on the other side. They shipped away Von Miller because it was his last year of his contract. I figured he was going to be gone. 2 seasons ago I talked about that, but they traded him in season to the Rams. But Bradley Chubb was not the answer. Of course, he got moved. They still kind of play hard. It's difficult to play a mile high. Talking about next week. But I am not real impressed with Russell Wilson, to be honest with you, at this stage of his career. Javonte Williams with the ACL injury. And for most running backs, except for Adrian Peterson, it takes them at least 1 full season to get back to where they were. Saquon Barkley looked like crap last year coming back, and now he looks great. So, and they still have Melvin Gordon, who's okay, but he fumbles a lot. I don't see Denver. Denver should be at the bottom of this division. That should be the consensus. Now, you could talk if the Raiders actually played and weren't tanking, if we had competency at the coaching and preparation level, we could challenge the Chiefs. I mean, we played them hard. I don't think we have as much talent overall But same thing with the Chargers. We can split with them. Honestly, if we play to our potential, those are toss-up games. But I think Denver's the basement of this division right now, and I think will be, especially with the loss of that draft capital. Not to say Russell Wilson's going to totally suck. I mean, they've gone through so many. Drew Lock. I looked forward to playing him because he was so terrible. I'm not saying he's that bad, but he's not the MVP of old.
Right.
And like I said, the running game is not quite there. I think their offensive line played a little bit over their head, and I talked about this before, and they kind of came back to earth this far this season. So I expect more of the same there. They've been trying, Dalton Reisner's he's been kind of up and down. Cushenberry at center, played crappy his first season, bounced back the year after, and now they've kind of fallen back to earth, I think. And I am not a fan of Nathaniel Hackett either, so I think they'll be the basement next year. The Raiders are in tank mode. They'll probably finish last. That's a given in this division. But next year, I'd put Denver already there unless they make some major changes. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I totally get your point. I think a lot of those points resonate, but I still think I got to look at this, dispassionately, and I think we're probably at the basement for the foreseeable future. And the reason for that is this. One way to look at the different teams all across the NFL, but looking at the AFC West specifically, I asked myself this question: which team has the most holes? And I think that we probably do. Out of the Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, just taking the defensive side of the ball for the Raiders, we need at least, on the defensive side of the ball, we need at least one edge defender because Chandler Jones is not the answer. We need at least one defensive tackle. So that's a D end, D tackle. We need another two linebackers. I got to say, Denzel Perryman, I think he had an amazing season last year. He's a shell of himself this year. I don't know if it's him or the system, but we need at least a couple of linebackers. Merrick doesn't, he's not the same as last year either. And obviously we traded away, or actually didn't even trade away. We just cut Abram. So we need another safety. And I think we need another corner. We're going to re-sign Rock Ya-Sin, I'm pretty sure, in the offseason. But someone to play opposite him, I suppose it could be Hobbs, but we need another nickel corner at least to go ahead and provide us some help. So on the defensive side, I guess to summarize, we need a DN, D tackle, two linebackers, a corner, whether that's an outside corner or a nickel corner, and another safety. So you're looking at at least six positions of need, 6 players that you need on defense. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Thayer Mumford might be the answer. I'm not sure, but we should bring in a veteran next year. So we need a right tackle. I would like to bring in another guard. And to be honest, I've never been sold on Andre James. I think he doesn't read protections well. He doesn't set them well. And I don't think that he's a leader on the offensive line. But anyways, I'll give Andre James a pass, but on the offensive line, let's say we need a guard and a right tackle. I think we're going to need a running back, and Raider Nation is not going to like me for saying this, but I don't think Ziegler is re-signing Josh Jacobs. I think we want him to re-sign Josh Jacobs, but the Patriots are notorious for not paying their players, especially running backs. So I'm pretty sure they're going to have Josh Jacobs test the market, and he's going to walk. And then at the tight end position, that's a big question mark. Morrow is a free agent, and we don't know if Waller is ever going to be healthy again. So we may need a tight end there. So I just step back and just look at the whole situation, champion, and I feel we have a lot of holes on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I'll take your response off air. Thanks for having me.
All right,
really
thank you for coming on. I'll respond to you, and then we'll get to the final comments. We ran a little over. We usually go about an hour, so appreciate you coming out though, Al's Ghost. Thanks again. Yeah, we do have a lot of holes. We've had the defensive tackle hole for at least 3 years. I mean, you could go back to Richard Seymour for that. I mean, if you really want to talk about that, Chester McLaughlin. I mean, come on. Yeah, Chandler Jones obviously was a terrible move. No two ways about it. Cornerback position. Hobbs would be nice. I don't know. Rock Ya-Sin's he's been okay. He's not a world beater, but he's been okay. I could see us addressing that in an early draft pick, to be honest with you, maybe a second round pick. Safeties we could probably find in free agency, to be honest with you. But yeah, I would say defensive tackle is huge. It's huge. We need multiple DTs, yes. Raiders 7528 says, let's discuss our cap space next season. Well, if you want to subscribe, and we'll get to that, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and like. Every offseason, after the offseason, I do a salary cap show. I have the charts with everybody's position, who's going to be staying, who I think is going to be going, who I think they're going to cut, and how much salary cap we have currently, and how much I think what I would do with the current roster to free up some space and potential free agents I would sign. So, like I said, sign up, whether you're following on TikTok or subscribing here on YouTube. Get back to your question. The offensive side, I think Waller's going to be traded. I think there was some rumblings about that before. It just didn't happen. I heard the Packers wanted him. It wouldn't surprise me if that deal happens sometime in the offseason. And I've been very vocal about my criticism with Darren Waller, especially of late, starting with last season when we needed him, and then this whole thing in the offseason, playing games until he gets signed, and then now the team's in disarray, and now he's hurt again. It's like, I've had enough. I've really had enough. Foster Moreau, to me, is not the answer. He can go. I've been very critical of him. A lot of people say he has good hands. I don't really see it. Not only with catching, but holding on the ball. And it's gotten to the point, and I made fun of him a week or two ago about doing this. Every time he runs with the ball now, and he did it in this game, 2 hands like this running. I mean, it's basic fundamental football. You bring it in, you put the point. You guys are professionals. Why? Because he fumbles the ball. It's like, can't rely on a guy like that. So, there's going to be tight ends in free agency. We could go maybe middle, late round draft pick as a tight end. That's where Denver got Dulcich. You're talking about us versus Denver as far as roster goes. I mean, they shipped Noah Fant. They got Albert O still, and Dulcich is probably the tight end of the future there. So I think that's easily fillable. Right tackle, huge need, still not filled, not easy to fill. Of course, guard play, center. Andre James has been kind of up and down. I do agree with you. Sometimes I think he gets fooled by the defense, especially when they do some stunts, and he doesn't know which way to go. I've seen that a little bit. Not to say he's terrible. I'd probably say he's probably average. I would like to see a little bit more push in the run game in the center of the ball. I mean from the one. I think guard tackle sometimes it's kind of hit and miss, but we're more successful there than trying to run straight up the middle, it seems. All right, we got some bots in here. I love it. That's when you know you've arrived, when you get the I can't say the word in TikTok, the reproductive find.info here. How you doing? Some hot girls here for free. Wow. That's a bargain. There we go. And we'll take care of that. So, fun aside, we do have a lot of holes. I still think that we're a lot better placed than Denver Broncos. But it just seems like you're right. I think they're throwing Derek Carr out to the Wolves or to the Lions or whatever you want to say. It's not fair to him. Not to say he's a world beater, but he deserves much better, and it's kind of weird and sad, and it's kind of paralleling his brother, where his brother just basically got the crap beat out of him in Houston, basically finished his days as a backup, I believe, with the Giants and maybe somewhere else. So, all right, we're going to close it out. Put your final comments here. We're going to end the poll. What should the Raiders do next? Let's see. Final vote, full rebuild, over 50%. Full rebuild, draft a quarterback. I'm looking on TikTok right now. I want to acknowledge over 2,000 likes, 10 likes on YouTube. With YouTube, you need to step up. I know with TikTok, you can just keep hitting the button, but still, 2,300 likes, that's a lot, and I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. Any other final words before we close this one? I know we went a little over time. Chandler Jones is crap, says Dominique. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's obvious. So we'll just, like I said, boycott. I'm still going to watch. I enjoy football. Of course, I want the Raiders to win. I don't want them to tank. I want them to have more pride. And by the comments with Derek Carr and Devontae Adams after the game, so do they. I think they echo my statement. I got a lot of dead wood on this team, out for a paycheck, it looks like, in-house. And McDaniels is either asleep or doesn't give a care. It's one of the two. And Tommy Boy, fantastic job. Again, I don't see how you can say 2-7 is a fantastic job unless you just don't care about winning and you're just spitting on the legacy of your father. And to me, that's sad. More than anything, it's sad. More than anything, it's sad. A lot of us in Raider Nation would be so grateful to have the opportunity to be in that kind of a position, let alone essentially desecrating his legacy. So with that said, I think I've ranted enough about the Raiders, and I know we all feel crap about it's not just 2-7, it's how we're playing. It's the talent level isn't matching the performance. I've seen teams, especially when when Carr was a rookie, they went like 1-10. They finally beat the Kansas City Chiefs. That team deserved to be 1-10. That team was not good at all across the board for the most part. That was a crappy team. This team deserves much better. They should at least be at 500, if not a little bit over 500, fighting for one of those wild card spots. And they're not, and they don't care. And again, I'm not going to get back into that rant again. So that said, thank you for coming out. If you are enjoying this, and if you've stayed here till the very end, I want to thank you. Appreciate you coming out, watching this. And if you're on a replay, why not join us? You could be live right here with us, chatting away right here in chat live with us. So that said, I'm going to say thank you again. And as always, go Raiders. What's up, Rippin' Rabbit Hole?
Ask you something. With all the distractions that you have off the field, how are you able to keep focused on winning football games as you do and do throughout the years?
When you have great coaches, then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing: just win, baby.